Okay, so what I want to do in this very hopefully short video is just go over the overview of what you're going to do here. So part of this work you're going to do on GitHub, and then the rest of the work you're going to do locally. And then at the end, what you'll end up learning about is how to do the Git workflow. And so this process will be used again and again in this class. And then I do recommend you set up a local folder because you'll end up with two repos that you're going to build, a public and a private one. The thing is, when you set up these repos, I'm actually very specific about names and lowercase, so make sure you follow that. Okay, so again, you're going to go through this process. This is really important that, again, if you're new to this class, you get this done early so that you can get some help if you need it. The other thing I'd like to say, kind of as a FYI, the GitHub invites I do on the first step where you do your attendance do expire in 7 days. So you really, A, want to make sure you get them done quickly, and B, make sure that you use them within 7 days, or I'll have to reissue them, which I can do, but especially depending on, like I talked about here, if you're working in a time that I'm not. So I just want to give you a quick thing is I'm on my, and now you're not going to see this because you're going to be setting yours up, but I'm on a repo I've created out on GitHub, kind of your, what you're going to do when you have this step done. Okay, you're going to end up with two of them, so I'm only just going to show you my private one. You'll also create a public one, and you'll do a similar thing. Because once you do the workout on GitHub, then you install some local software, the Git and the VS Code. Again, I don't require that. You could use another editor. I just think it works best because it's what I'll use, right? So once you do that, then you go through the process of cloning. And so this, setting up this folder and cloning, is then taking what you've done out on GitHub, and you're not just copying it, you're connecting it to your local system so that then you can code and push that code to GitHub. But I just want to show you just real quickly, again, don't take this as your instruction, take this as just a helping you understand what you're going to end up doing. So I have VS Code open. I already have that base folder set up. I have my terminal open. Don't worry if you don't know about these things. But if you do, git clone, and then I'm pasting in that URL. And what this is going to do here is it's going to go out to VS Code, or sorry, to GitHub, and it's going to bring in all those files I've created. Now for you, when you do this step, you probably won't have anything, you won't really have anything in here. So my example is just based on all the work that I already have done here, okay? All right, so then once you clone, right, so this is the part of, I didn't show you the creating the folder, but hopefully you know how to do that locally. You can figure out where you want it. It's really up to you. I like having all mine in one centralized place. Then once you do that, and this is an important thing to understand, is once you clone, because you can, and I almost don't want to say this, but I want you to know, because it is natural to want to maybe go out because you can modify code out here, but you don't want to do that because it'll cause what we call conflicts. And the reason is that now I have that repo. See how it's local? And if I was to come in here and make changes to my code, like if I was to say updating here, that's a change to the code. Then what you're going to learn is how to, now this is one-time setup stuff, but this is the workflow that you're going to end up doing. So as an example, if you saw, I was on the W1 HTML, the index file, right? So if I was to look here, I would see if I looked at that file that right now that content's not out there. So then what I do here is I could do git status. Again, don't worry about knowing all this. Oh yeah, and this is something I teach you about making sure what folder you're in. Like I could do this, open an integrated terminal. Git status would tell me, oh yeah, I have a modified file. I do git add star. Now I could just add the individual file, the index, but I'm going to do anything I've modified. Git commit. Now, I actually give you specific commit messages, so when I give you instruction, you'll have that part down demoing. That's all I'm going to say here. Okay. Now, what I've done here is I've now version controlled it locally. It still is not out on GitHub, but as soon as I do git push, then it takes all the changes I've done locally, and if I refresh this, then I will see that that update, that new content is out on GitHub, and I can also see that if I look at this, I can see my commit history. So, in the process that you're about to go through, just keep that in mind as far as what you're doing, because that's really the process you're doing. You're going to do some stuff on GitHub, you're going to set up the repos, you're going to install some software, you're going to clone, create a folder, you're going to clone that public and that private repo, you're going to do some setup here, then you're going to learn that Git workflow. Okay, and this, going through this process, and I don't want you to use this unless you already are comfortable. If you already are comfortable and you know how to do that, great. You definitely, though, want to make sure you've done things like set up your git ignore. So don't use this to bypass this content, but you know, you can also, if you have experience, pick and choose the pieces you need. But if you're new, you definitely want to go through this in detail. All right, I hope this helps you out, and I show you how to submit your URL at the end to show that you've completed the assignment. All right, I'll talk to you later.